Everyone, my name is Fitria Marsabesi. Now I will to explain for you all about the structure of the sentence. Okay, next the video. Okay, the topic is the structure of the sentence. The context. The first is poverty of the stimulus. The second is conventionality, and the three is grammar or finality language is not. And four restriction, and five differentiation in the difference in syntax or Chris language, and the last is uh, functional syntax. The first, poverty of the stimulus. The poverty of the stimulus is concept in linguistics, the stage that children can language quickly and flexibly, even though the language export that respect is limited and not all is skilled. And the children's the view that language learning is completely dependent on the environment and experience. For example, when a child cannot well understand complex grammar such as proper use of the verb, correct tenses, and other grammar rules, even though they have never been expensive tools in any of the rules. For example, children may use an universal for like get instead of the when because they assume that is correct from even though it's really used in everyday language. And the next slide is the amazing robot basketball player. The amazing robot basketball player is concept that describes an human created robot that has extraordinary abilities in playing basketball. This robot is able to display skill and prowess similar to human others in playing basketball. For example, such as throw to wall that's accurately moving against and throws and making strategies decisions trying the games. And the next slide. Uh, Applying the metaphor of the structure of this sentence. Applying the metaphor to the structure of the sentence is a question that uses metaphor or problems to explain sentence structure more easily understood by many people. In such complex sentence structure are explained using comparison with things that are more familiar or simple in the everyday life. For example, like the sun set behind the moonlight as the day drawn to a close. Metaphor a sentence. The sun, like a travel slowly can stand behind to the tall mountains leading farewell to the day. And the next slide. The second is compositionality. Grammar is this sentence have the correct definition properties of the fundamental property of the grammar of everyday language is that its compositionality. Sentences are model of the clause and phrases, which true are made of similar closer and phrases or words. For example, like the cat is sleeping on the mat. The center above the centuries of the several phrases and words that are arranged conventionally. The cat as noun, a noun process consisting of the article they and the noun cat is living. A verbal person or verb process consisting of the verb is to be and the verb sleeping to sleep. On the mat, a personal press consisting of the proposition on and the noun, the mat. And the next slide. Projection. Confusion the structure of the sentence beginning with word the blow to the categories like nouns, verb, preposition, adjective, and determines. There's words are two hands of the verses. For example, like sentence, I'd like to eat ice cream. I'd like to eat ice cream. In the sentence, to word like is a traverse verb affection, the recent object, eat ice cream. Like in the sentence is example of the projection because the meaning of the like influence of the project its life on eating ice cream. So this sentence states that the subject I have the positive feeling towards the act of the eating ice cream. And the next slide merges. Merger is a process in which two or more sounds or phonemes that were precisely different in language merge into the one because their pronunciation are getting close and were others. The context of a phonology merges cues that loss of the sound difference between two or more sounds of the phoneme. For example, like one well-known example of the merge called cut and cut cut merges its American into American English in some portion of the American letters the phoneme and cut and the phoneme cut in cut have the merged is to one and the same sound. This the two words sound the same in the merges date. Cut, cut, and cut have the similar pronunciation. It's like cut. Okay, axillary movement. Axillary movements refers the movements or movements of the axillary verb from the its original position of the sentence to for question or interested sentence in English. For example, she is sitting. She is studying. In the distinct sentence above, the auxiliary is compressed before the subject C. Interrogative sentence. Uh, is she is she studying? In the interaction sentence above, the auxiliary word is has been moved to the form of the sentence before the subject C to form question. This it is what is referred to as an auxiliary movement. And the next slide is we have movements. Where movement is a process that refers the movements or a transfer or question words over the trait's original position in the sentence to the first position of the sentence to first question or interest interrogative sentence in English. For example, like she is reading a book. In the declarative sentence above, the question word what is missing, and the sentence is a simple statement about him reading a book. Interrogative sentence. Um, what is he? What is he reading? What is he reading? In the question sentence above, the question word what has been moved to the front of the sentence from its original position or to form question. This example of the we have movements by reference the question word, the declarative sentence becomes a question about what he is reading. And the next slide is three is grammar or finitely language is not. Grammar or finitely language is not is the phrase that describes the difference between grammar and language itself. This expression implies that grammatical rules used to form particular language are limited and can be explained by limit number of the rules. But the language resulting from the grammar rules has not bordering and connects to grow and connects many variation and combination of the word and sentence. For example, like when we study English grammar, we learn about the sentence formattation rules, tense structure, adverb, subject, predicate, and more. And the rules And this rule are a limit part of the English grammar and can be explained in grammar books. Limit grammar, um, she is going to the sword. The grammar explains proper sentence structure and the correct use of the sentence. And the next slide, multiply ejection. Multiply ejection is a concept that refers to use of the more than one adjective, person, and describe or to modify the same noun in the sentence. In the limitable ejection, the adjective phrases are placed side by side or in the round to the present provide more information and detail to the nouns. For example, like he has expensive black leather shoes. In a sentence, we are using multiplied ejection with two adjective phrases, namely black and expensive, to describe to the noun shoes. The price black leathers provides information about the material the shoes is made of, while the process expensive provides information about the flow or price of the shoes. And the next slide is recursion. Recursion is a concept that refers to the ability of the phrase or sentence to contain itself and repeating structure. In the context of the language, recording all phrases or sentence to repair interest in the vitally deforming complex constructions. For example, like the boy read a book he bought in the big shop. In the in the explained above, the process, the big one, is used repeatedly to describe the shop where the child buy book. The first, the big one, alright, and context itself, which the structure of the big shop, which they become part of the largest process in the big shop, alright, and this process can connect and the product in increasingly complex construction. And the next slide is embedding. Embedding is context that transfer embedding or placing one language construction into others by interesting it. In embedding, one construction become part of the language construction to forming a complex in multi-layer structure. For example, like basic sentence, I like to eat rice. Alright, and embedding sentence, he said that he liked to eat rice. It explain above. We use embedding by introducing the sentence I like to eat rice into the sentence. He said that. In this way, the base sentence become part of the largest sentence. The new sentence structure forms due to this embedding become more complex. And the next slide is coordination. Coordination is complex in the language that refers to combine two or more similar elements or contraction in a sentence by using conjunctions such as and or no and the like. Alright? With a coordination, these elements are considered equally or placed in the sentence structure and combined to form a single unit that has a more complete meaning. For example, I like apple and orange, right? And this sentence above, we are using coordination to combine two similar nouns, namely apple and orange, right? The conjunction and is used to join the two nouns in sentence. This sentence means uh, that the speaker like both the types of the first. In the next slide is definitive of the recursion. Recursion in the language means the ability to repeat inside language structure into a similar structure. They learn the language to create more complex and deeper sentences by contrasting neatly precise and close within one others. For example, the basic sentence, the cat sleep on the table. A better research, the cat sleeping on the result table is my throw of favorite pet. In the explain which, recording the basic sentence, the cat sleep on the table is expanded by adding more information and the process or the nation which within each others describes a more complex and in-depth sentence, but still forms encourage an understandable structure. And the next slide is for restriction. The restriction is a restriction on the use or combination or of the contained elements in the language. In the linguistic context, restriction means the same words, phrases, or recurrences have the contained rules or limitation in the terms used in others to conform to proper grammar or the meaning. For example, restriction of the nouns. The noun cat is the countable nouns. Is the cat be used in the plural form by adding an s to the ending for the word cats. Apabila ada penambahan kata s di bagian belakang, itu berarti biasa disebut uncountable, lebih dari satu. Apabila kata tidak menambahkan s di belakang berarti countable, tidak, itu berarti satu saja, tidak ada dua, tiga, empat. And the next slide is have determiner present movements. Having determinant present movement is a phoneme is language that refers the two moments or the removal of the determined phrase from the original position in the sentence to form question or interrogative sentence in English. For example, like the cat is on the table. In the declarative sentence above, the determining process the cat come before the verb is. Interrogative sentence, where is the cat? It is interrogative sentence above the definition process the cat. Alright, has been moved to the front of the sentence before the verb is. This is an explain of the having determiner presence moving by removing that defining process and declarative sentence through into question about where the cat is. And the next slide for difference in syntax across language. Different in text across language are difference in the grammar or sentence structure between various language in the word. Each language has its grammar rules in pattern, so syntax contraction in one language may be different from others. For example, difference and adjective pledge. The big house, right? In the English, adjective big is placed before the noun house. Before in Indonesian, the adjective big is placed after the noun house. This is an explain of the difference in adjective place between English and Indonesian. And the next 5 is functional syntax. The functional syntax is studying the relationship between syntax structure and cognitive purpose in language functions in social interaction. In functional analysis, the main context is how the grammar and sentence structure are used to action events effective and operative communication in various situational contexts. For example, Mr. John helped his students with homework. In this example, the sentence has functional function to convey information about Mr. Johan's action helping uh, his students. In the current situation, which homework, the main focus of the sentence is to provide information about the helping action taken by Mr. Johan. And then next, I think that's all about my presentation. Apabila ada pertanyaan dari teman-teman yang lain, atau ada saran, saya persilahkan. And thank you so much for your attention and see you.